I'll save for the pod because I don't know. I'm sure you saw what I said in the chat earlier today, but I was just thinking about it like, you know what? This makes no fucking sense. Like,
welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm your host, Phil Bakke, and I forgot to do our little intro. Proud member of the Beautiful Game Network, brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Mikka Burrell. Mikka, what's up?
Hey, not much. Just, man, I had last night's match on my mind at work like all day, which I'm sure you saw because of my ranting to no one in particular in the group chat. So I'm glad we were able to hop on the mic tonight and, put the rant on the record.
Yeah, now you get to rant to no one in particular via a larger platform.
Sure, right. How you doing?
Yeah, this one stung. Like, we'll get into it, but it just I don't know. We haven't had a result that's like stuck with me like this for a while. I've kind of shrugged off a lot of our past results, and this one, I don't know, even worse than San Antonio, even a little bit. Like, to be honest, it stung. I think it was that palpable. We were so close we could almost taste it. The silverware. I think that's where it was even more of a gut punch. A
lot of narrative to this one, I think, is why. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that, the whole the whole testimonial match that we found ourselves in. We've got a lot that we need to cover. We'll be talking, obviously, the draw last night against Austin Bold, and then we'll answer a few listener questions. I think we've got some Copa Tejas discussion on the docket, and then Real Monarchs coming up next week. Another just this like weird series of Wednesday night games that we're playing all in a row,
back to back. Yeah.
And now we get the onslaught. We are headed into the gauntlet. At the end of the season, basically, there will nary a day will pass that you're not either hearing from us or watching Locomotive. Those are,
yeah,
these are dark times indeed. That you'll be hearing from us. No, gosh, we got tons to cover, and we will get to it in a second. I think first, if you're finding us for the first time, you have stumbled upon an El Paso Locomotive podcast, and hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, please give us a follow, subscribe, like, whichever, on any of the major podcast platforms. And you can find us on social media, particularly Twitter, at Seriously Loco. Check us out. That's where our listeners mostly interact with us, and that's where the listener questions that you'll hear in the show come from. So always hit us up. We love to interact and let the questions guide us when they can. But Mikka, I mean, the story of this match last night ultimately ends up being that Locomotive came into the match with a chance to clinch Copa Tejas, which obviously first go around with Copa Tejas, Austin Bold were the champions, and Locomotive were quite poor in that particular competition. This time around, Locomotive much more dominant in the competition, but denied at the death by the reigning champs.
Yeah, 2-2 at Circuit of the Americas. Hey, to be fair to Austin Bold, I thought that they were very good. They look nothing like the team we faced earlier in the season that were playing under Marcelo Serrano. You know, as many know, Marcelo's now gone upstairs to be the technical director, and Ryan Thompson has come in. And since he's come in and in the technical area, Austin Bold had three wins and a draw. Of course, draw last night.
Yeah.
So undefeated under the new man. New manager bounce applies in USL Championship as well, apparently.
Yeah.
And they were very good. I mean, they looked very well drilled. Like I commented on Locos Spaces, probably the highest press I've seen us play against.
Yeah.
It's usually us that are around the opponent's area when we're off the ball. So
Right.
they were impressive, to be fair to them. And yeah, we just let the Copa slip through our hands against the reigning champs. But like I tried to make myself feel better with this morning, obviously Locomotive just want to be more festive and wait until they're home to lift the trophy. So that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah. I thought it was really, I mean, and I'm going to say the pun just because it's there, but like it was a really bold performance, like from Austin Bull. And I obviously that's corny as hell, but like this performance was aggressive in not even in a shithousery kind of way, because there really wasn't a ton of like hard challenges they were flying into or anything. There was certainly some physicality on both sides, but nothing like some of these other matches we played in. So I think the thing that stood out to me, and maybe the thing that set the tone for this one from Thompson and this bold side, is Fabian Garcia gets hurt and has to come off in the 14th minute. And he brings on an attacker in Atstiouf, and like he unapologetically changes the shape and starts pressing like an absolute madman. I think Locomotive actually had a decent spell in those opening minutes. But after the substitution, I'm thinking Fabian Garcia going off, like that's a huge break for Locomotive in terms of like their shape, and obviously one of the more experienced defenders on the team. They changed shape and they looked just as solid, just as comfortable in that shape. And yeah, tons of credit for what Bold did. Certainly we'll get on to the Locomotive side of things, but I think the conversation has to start with, especially in the first half, Bold were the better team.
Yeah, absolutely. We were very, very, I don't know if flat-footed is the word, or just kind of lacking intensity, lacking tempo,
Sure.
Half step behind everything Austin Bold were trying to do in that first half. It was, disappointing to say the least how we came out. And, those are the marks of a good team for Bold, is that they're able to, kind of plug and play, right, with different personnel when something doesn't go to plan. And Garcia's forced off pretty early, I think in like the 18th minute or something like that. He's got to come off. And Alassane Diouf was a nightmare. Reminded me of another Senegalese attacker, Sadio Mane. He completed the most dribbles in the game, got an assist, 2 shots on target. Just, we kind of wonder why he didn't start, I guess. But first half, not good. Just I don't know. It's kind of indicative of what we've been putting out, what we've been serving up on the road lately. As you and I both realized before we hit record, we haven't won on the road in 5 matches, which dates back to mid-July.
Yeah, end of
when
July.
we visited San Antonio. So it's been slim pickings on the road for us. Not a lot of defeats, of course, but not a lot of dubs either.
Yeah, and Fernie from Eighth Notch at Cool Fernie on Twitter asked, I feel that the team hasn't been up to par these last games. You guys are more in tune with stats and weird shit like XG. Is it just me? Well put, Fernie. We do love our weird shit over here. But Mikka, I mean, these games on the road in particular, it does feel like we're having to make a lot of adjustments, or we're having to react a lot to how the first half goes. And like you said, we're not coming away with a lot of wins. So, I mean, what do you chalk that up to?
I mean, without wanting to make excuses necessarily, I think there is a human element to all of this, and we are getting to the grind, the business end, as they say. And these guys look a little leggy, to be fair to them. And the squad is stretched thin, dealing with a lot of injuries, especially at the back. People get healthy and get injured in and out. Like, it seems like Foxy, Yuma, and, others are kind of like trading health every week, if that makes sense. So I think the continuity hasn't been there either, and we know our platform is our defense. And so when there's a lot of changes back there, I tend to think that has a knock-on effect on the rest of the team. The other thing too is, and this is the next big topic of discussion on our little outline here, is the system.
Yeah.
We've pivoted away from the diamond in recent weeks, and I don't know why that is. And I don't like it. I'm just going to put it out there. For the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to think, like, what is it about Locomotive that, especially on the road, doesn't feel right? And we've been playing this 4-4-2, this flat 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And obviously that sacrifices, I guess, depending on how you look at it, because of course the way that it is on paper is not always how it plays out on the pitch. But the way you look at it, you could say that you sacrifice one midfielder for, more width.
Sure.
And I think last night that really showed. I think Richie Ryan had a difficult night, to be fair. And Nick Ross, as a double pivot, doesn't get to showcase his attacking potential like he would do in a diamond. So all of those things, I think, have kind of added up to what Fernie's talking about, is that we just haven't been up to par. We look like I think Jake said it looked like we're running through sand a little bit, and I think all of that is really, really fair. But yeah, I think there's a human element to it too, and maybe a tactical one. So yeah,
when it comes to the weird shit, Fernie, they had the XG for the match at 1.72 to Austin Bold and 1.1 something. Hold on. Yeah, 1.14 to Locomotive. So in terms of our danger, there's something that had emerged earlier in the season where we were definitely kind of coming out of the gates really strong, scoring early goals, and then, managing a half, and then in the second half, seizing the opportunity to go hit somebody on the counter or grab that dagger goal. And there's something about the first halves, I guess, especially on the road, where it does feel like we're played, like we're just kind of like figuring it out, and we're letting teams kind of play how they will. And it's not necessarily, in a lot of these games, it's not necessarily that the opponent is dictating the play or even really like dominating in a material way. It's just like, we aren't putting our authority on the game. Like, if that makes sense, like we're not asserting ourselves, and the system feels like it does play a part, because I think last night there were just a lot of times where we felt a man light in midfield. And I think it's just because we are used to that diamond where we're used to having a 6 and, 2 8s in front of them. And when it's just Richie and Nick, there were just a lot of situations where if they were too far apart from each other, then the ball is being played like through the middle or kind of easily being switched, and there's not as much pressure on the ball. And I think we talked about the situations in which it feels appropriate. Like in the last episode, we talked about like, what are the type of teams that you would break out an additional midfielder versus fielding an additional attacker. And I feel like away to Bold is like exactly the sort of game that you would want that extra central midfielder at the expense of, maybe I think in this one, you look at, it's like, okay, well, I think Mark is trying to solve a problem with this 4-4-2 of how do I field all of the attackers that I want to field all at once in positions where they can make a difference. And I think, unfortunately, like what he's now settled on, Dylan is one of the victims of the system.
I agree with that.
Because being wide, I don't know that it suits Dylan's strengths. I think we've seen when Sebastian or Diego get into wide areas, they have that like dribbling ability and not to say that Dylan isn't very talented and technical on the ball, but he often doesn't beat people one-on-one. Like that's not really part of it. He creates space for himself.
Right. Seb and Diego are more explosive in that traditional wide attacking kind of way. Right.
Yeah. I almost kind of think of it as like the difference between, well, you brought up Sadio Mane and like, I'll bring a Liverpool thing in, but it's like the difference when Coutinho dribbles, and I say this is a throwback or whatever, like good Coutinho, whatever. But when you would watch like Coutinho dribble, he's not like necessarily going past a bunch of people or anything like that. His dribbling was to open up space for himself. And Dylan is very much like that. He's not going to like beat a bunch of people for pace, and he's not going to necessarily like put anyone down, but he's going to open the space for a shot or a cross or, a pass, like whatever that is. And so being wide, it just feels like he's really far away from the areas of the pitch where he makes the biggest difference, which is like the edge of the 18-yard box.
Right.
And Diego and Sebastian like demonstrate in this game why they're able to be fielded in these different areas and how they can still be effective and how they can still link up. And unfortunately, like Dylan was a little bit of a passenger in proceedings, or felt like it. And then the other victim, it feels, is Richie Ryan in a midfield too, just because he just feels so isolated at times. And so, yeah, the system I think has to play a part, because we've gotten obviously we're not watching training week in and week out, and we're not always, we don't get to see like how people are performing as a staff does. And certainly, they've earned plenty of leeway in terms of being able to field the team that he wants, because it's worked to such good effect over the season. But at some point, we got so used to watching a certain system that it feels really strange to now have departed from that. So, I mean, that's where now I think a lot of people are looking and saying like, wow, it's kind of odd that we're playing this, and why does it feel so weird? So when you're asking yourself like, why does this feel different? Like, the system plays a big part in it.
Absolutely. And I think it's really well put, everything you've said about Dylan, and your eye test certainly meets with the stats, because Dylan had less touches than Logan, which isn't always an indictment, right? Because with the way that we play, Logan's naturally going to touch the ball a lot, but for ostensibly a wide midfielder in a 4-4-2, that's not great, right? Obviously we weren't affecting things down his flank. And I have to agree that he is kind of a victim of the system. And with Richie, same thing. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that he's getting on, and he needs more support to really shine.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think his technical qualities and his first time pass and his instincts help him out a lot in that situation. But when you're going up against a really athletic side like Austin Bold, it's, that's not always going to work out. And I think we saw that last night. And so, yeah, it's just been a little bit strange ditching the diamond. I don't know if we are trying to make up for the disruptions in our backline by just, fitting all our attackers on, and without wanting to be too, hindsight is 2020 type thing. We have discussed at length on the pod how we like to see the three attacking midfielders interchange. Mm-hmm. But I think that was in context, right? In the context of the game.
Yeah.
Usually it was in the diamond. And yeah. I will say though, on the whole, I think Diego and Seb have had quite good seasons, and it's been a bit of a disappointing one for Dylan, but not to say he's a poor player or anything. Of course not. Still rate him from any dead ball, right? But It's been tough for him.
Yeah, and the link up, I guess between Diego and Seb for the first goal, maybe a little bit of a illustration of how the system can, emphasize their good aspects, and maybe it does. It leaves Dylan, looking for that way to make an impact, and so just hopeful that obviously we can find ways for everybody to contribute. The other weird thing about this 4-4-2, Mikka, for me, and I think we've talked about it on previous episodes, but I mean, it bears repeating, especially in this match. The flat 4-4-2, we also seem like way more vulnerable to counterattacks. And in this one, Richie being as kind of isolated in that defensive midfield area as he was, every time that if he got caught on the ball or had even just a slightly loose touch, Austin Bold were onto him, and then just it felt like they were through on goal like every time that they nicked the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem too with this is that while I totally think that we are one of the best sides, if not the best side technically, I don't think we're ever going to be the athletic beasts that you see on the rest of the league. And so guarding against the counter, I think, is a priority for us, or at least it should be. I think that's right. I think with this flat 4-4-2, you do see, again, that isolation of the deepest midfielder, and then the fullback or whoever is there having to clean up. And to be fair, I think that side was just struggling too. I don't know that Edo Borelli got, touch tight to his man every time that he maybe could have. He had a couple good slide tackles, as we're used to seeing from him, but there was a breakdown there in that area of the pitch quite often last night. And it's, again, just a consequence, I think, of not having that extra midfielder that you would do in the diamond.
We'll keep it negative for now. That way we can end on a positive note. Obviously the rest of the bad of this game starts with Stefano Pino's opener. And bit of a weird one because it felt preventable in like a number of different ways. And in particular, like the header itself is not particularly, there's nothing particularly impressive about it. But it was also, as you said, like comes a little bit from Eder just not being quite as close to his man as possible. Like cross comes in, Pino rises highest over Mishak, which like questions to be asked, and Logan caught in no man's land, all contributing to this like kind of scrappy opener for Bold that, whether they deserved it or not, this goal was pretty preventable.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about Bold just generally before we break down the goal is I feel like both goals are similar in the fact that they're unlucky on their face, but with the way that Bold was playing, I felt like they created their own luck, if that makes any sense. It's like they were playing so well that it's like, well, it's gonna go in by hook or by crook. In this one, Pino's opener, we saw this exact sequence a few minutes before it where they were targeting that far post where Mishak was, and I rate Mishak in a last-ditch defending scenario, and he cleared 100%. It really well. He cleared it really, really well that first time that they tried it.
Yeah.
Next time it comes in, though, I mean, he's just, like you said, Pino's risen higher than him, and it does go off his like back or shoulder. I don't know. It took a kind of weird turn, weird carom, and then Logan's flat-footed a little bit because of the trajectory of the ball changed so rapidly and too close to him to react in time. So it goes in. I mean, that's just a result of allowing the cross. Simple as, right? And Pino, as we know, is a very talented player, very athletic, and I don't know that Mishak could do much with that. I think it was very purposeful, to be fair, that they were targeting him, because we know if you try to target Andrew Fox, more than likely he'll win that aerial battle.
Sure.
With his physicality, and he's very good just airily in general. So, they kind of took advantage of Mishak there a little bit, and I don't know that I necessarily blame him all the way. It's just kind of all of those things combining, as you said.
We talked quite a bit about, obviously, what we thought contributed, basically what we thought contributed to this feeling of the first half being slow. So at Brother Lewis on Twitter saying, what do y'all attribute our slow starts to the past couple games? I think we did kind of hit that a little hard, but this one, this game overall, like obviously throughout, we talked about the shape, we talked about the system, slow start. But there's been this like other aspect of things creeping in, and that's, another away game and another late goal allowed.
Yeah. You have to wonder what the focus or lack thereof is like in those final minutes, and who's keeping people focused. I think you see in this one in particular, perhaps what we're missing without Yuma, right? Because we know Yuma is orchestrating things back there, and he's very much the metronome, right? The sets the tempo on the ball, but is also barking at folks all 90 minutes. So I don't know between Mishak and Andrew who's yelling back there, right? Maka's usually bombed so far up the wing that he's probably not speaking to anyone. He's on an island by himself trying to be a number 10. And Edor, he speaks with his action. So I don't know who's communicating back there. Maybe just Logan.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we're missing a little bit of something there without Yuma potentially. But yeah, the slow starts, you're not seeing things, Josie. It's real, and I don't know. It kind of reminds me, and Josie will appreciate this, because it kind of reminds me of the away games recently remind me of Unai Emery's Arsenal, where the first half of games always felt like we were trying to analyze the opposition and then respond in the second half. And so second half FC became like this joke, this running joke that we'd come back in the second half after we understood the task, right? But for this Locomotive side, I think we are expecting better starts than that, especially because we dominate so relentlessly from the first whistle at home.
Yeah.
And, I think a season ago, maybe even 2 seasons ago, when we first started in this league, I think we were okay with win at home and don't lose away. But we're aiming higher now, and so these kind of results where we're losing it or not losing it, I see it, mentally it feels like a loss, but where we're not winning it late is problematic.
Yeah.
So
it creates this late goal creates a fairy tale for Austin Bold, and that Sonny Guadarrama gets on his return to the team, gets what proved to be the equalizer with the last kick of the game, like this big storyline. I feel quite ignorant, to be quite honest, because as I was watching the game last night, I was like, what is happening? Like, the whole stadium is applauding this substitution. And obviously a local lad, I guess, as they would say, just like, who's made a big name for himself in the Austin community, coming on and scoring like that. Obviously a big moment, but it felt a little strange. Like the stadium kind of like came alive a little bit when he was subbed on. When up until that point, the most vocal fans in the stadium had been Eighth Notch Central Texas. Shout out to the boys out there who they were very audible on the broadcast, by the way. But it created this whole weird moment where the last 20 minutes or so felt like it felt like a testimonial. He almost scores an equalizer right after coming on, which was ruled out for offside. Eventually grabs the equalizer on this free kick. And this goal, as you said, a little bit of luck about it, but is it about Bold creating their own luck and in winning that free kick in the first place?
Oh, the free kick is just silly. Like, I don't know what we're doing in that area of the pitch, giving them an opportunity like that.
Yeah.
You know, they could smell blood in the water. It felt ominous. And it spoils what was such a nice go-ahead goal by Josue Aron Gomez, unfortunately. But we'll get on to the good after that. But, yeah, I mean, fairy tale ending, I suppose, or beginning, I guess, since he just re-signed up with the club. So good for him. But it's a weird one because I don't know if Logan's like unsighted or what, because I know somebody does kind of come across his line of vision trying to head it, but it really just acts more as a dummy and then it goes straight in.
Right.
So I don't know enough about goalkeeping to say whether that's his fault or what, but it does look odd.
Yeah.
The reaction is late again, but this time from way far out as opposed to way close up when it bounced off Mishak, which is totally understandable.
Sure.
So yeah, we shouldn't be giving that foul away in the first place. That's just poor game management. And yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, the goal itself, I think it is a little weird. Like as I just thought about it and saw it again today, I think as you're watching it, you're like, Logan really should like do better, but at the same time, the anticipation needed to potentially like save a header from point blank range. Obviously, like he has to be ready for someone to make contact with that.
Right.
And I think if you asked Logan, I'm sure like his thing would be like, they've got to win the header. Like,
absolutely.
Like one of our defenders like has to win that. And it just like, because otherwise either someone is getting their head on it from Austin and it's a extremely high or, high percentage chance because they were so close in, or you get what happened last night, which is everybody misses and it leaves Logan like completely stranded. So while it could be pretty easy to be like, oh, well, he should probably just anticipate like that flight, he kind of has to stay home because if anybody makes any contact, it's a goal basically. So,
right.
So yeah, it was a tough one to take, like for a number of reasons, but yeah, for that direct free kick to go in, like even if he had hit some insane curler, like in off the like into the postage stamp or whatever, like top bins, then okay, fine. Like tough to take, but at least like it was a banger or whatever, unsavable, all that stuff. I think this one's just tough to take because it's such a weird goal. Like it's not a shot, it's a cross, and it just happens to also be on target.
It's a cross into a dangerous area that goes in. Yeah. And it's like, and it's got the pace of a cross too, like a dinked cross. Like it's not meant to be like powerful. It's meant for someone to latch onto. So, yeah. I'm the last person who's going to blame Logan because I think 99.9% of the time he's truly incredible. Yeah. And so, yeah, we shouldn't have been putting our keeper in that position anyway.
Yeah. Now, we can question one aspect of Logan's performance, and that is the 1970s Denver Broncos, whatever. I don't know what we were going for. The bright orange with the blue shorts. Miami
Dolphins vibes.
Fashion choice, or do you think they washed
baggage lost?
Did they wash? They washed the orange shorts with with the blue shirts or something? Like what happened here?
I don't know, man. It was so like distracting.
Yeah.
Especially because Logan's so stoic. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't fuck around. I find it hard to believe it's a choice on his part. Someone lost the luggage or packed the wrong thing. I don't know. It was pretty funny, but I mean, it was odd.
It reminds me of of a time that I went to a Chihuahuas game and they were playing the Salt Lake Bees, and the Bees run out on the field in Chihuahuas hats. And I was like, well, that's weird.
What?
So I tweeted at the Bees, and it was like, what happened to your hats? And it was literally Hatbox got lost like in transit. So they didn't have hats to wear.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, on to the good, just to brighten things up a little bit. Locomotive come out for the second half, still a little ponderous, maybe a little bit like not really adapted to the game. And Mark makes the first move in terms of tactical substitutions, and he gets pretty bold himself and brings on Josue Aron Gomez for Richie Ryan. Obviously, very attacking changes shape. It looked like for a while it was actually Dylan kind of playing next to Nick in a midfield too. It lasts about 7 minutes, and Brian Rebellon is brought on for Dylan Maris, and the first highlight, I guess, of this game, or the first real good takeaway, was the impact of Brian Rebellon was felt like almost instantly.
Yeah, I thought Brian was a really nice addition to the game. He completely like changed the tempo down that right side as well. I felt just tearing through his defenders, getting fouled and smashed as per.
Yeah.
But it was good for us to be winning fouls higher up the pitch. And I thought he was just really good, really intense, driving the ball forward, which we really needed because, as you said, we started quite ponderously. Not as bad as the first half, but certainly before his introduction. But the changes, I was happy to see that the changes were made relatively quickly, because I know we've wondered in the past, like, why are we not addressing what's going on here? Why are we making changes in like the 85th minute, what have you?
Right.
So I welcome that. I think the game management has improved, I guess, in that regard. And yeah, I think it was interesting, though, that we completely dispensed with the notion of like a midfield. Society had apparently progressed past the need for midfields.
The concept of a midfield was just pedestrian.
Vaporized.
Yeah. It is legitimately 1 minute after Brian Rebellon's introduction that the equalizer is scored, and the goal itself, Locomotive's first. Diego Luna again with a super high quality finish, but it's a really good move that essentially boils down to like Gomez recovers a ball that had been played basically just down the left wing. He lays it off to Seb Velasquez, and then him and Diego Luna play 1-2s until Luna's lashing it into the side netting. Yeah,
I mean, the skill on display between the two of them is just peak, both of them, really.
Yeah.
They kind of have like a almost telepathic connection on the pitch in that area, and it's really nice to see. The thing, I'm running out of adjectives for the 18-year-old, but one that I'll throw in is the decisiveness. I mean, I think that's something that we've not necessarily been spoiled with attackers for this Locomotive side in the past, and he knows exactly what he wants to do when he gets the ball on his favorite foot, and it's a beautiful strike. And I wonder how many points Diego has earned us, perhaps single-handedly, to be fair. I don't know that we fight back in this one without him. So big ups to Luna.
Yeah, I think the thing, as you said, like running out of adjectives, in that he's decisive in these games, and he's decisive and decisive. Like he doesn't hesitate to make game-changing decisions or take on the responsibility of changing the game. and he also does change the game. Like and I think that's really what is so amazing about a kid at 18. Not just that he's self-confident, but that he's right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the criticism of a lot of young players sometimes, is that they can be very flashy and fun, but the decision making is off.
Right.
I think it's very rare actually for a young player to have all the tricks in the bag, but also showcase those in a way that does win you matches, that does advanced play, right? That does fit into the framework of a tactical system, and he's all of those things. And maybe that's, when you come through the Barcelona residency academy, I think that is what Barcelona is trying to teach the youngsters. We know the first team's a bit of a shambles right now, but the Barcelona way, you can certainly see that in him. And he's had a really good footballing education, clearly.
Yeah, it's a great goal, and I love that curled finish. There was something about the way that he came onto the ball as well, and the way he took the shot on, like it wasn't really a question as it traveled. Like it was going in. Like it really felt there was an air of inevitability about it as it traveled towards Panico's goal, and so 1-1 Locomotive at that point.
And Panico is a very good keeper, to be fair to him. I mean, he's up there with some of the best in USL, so yeah. And
had no shot with the bend that Diego applied. So as the Diego coin portfolios like kept rising, from that point, we were like clearly on top throughout. Like we were really pressing more for the second than Bold, to be not to say that they didn't have their chance, because as I said, Guadarrama subbed on, scores what could have been the winner, called off for offside. And then just a couple of minutes later, it's a link up between Lucho Solignac and Josue Ron Gomez. And Gomez, who has obviously endured, stretches of struggling to score. And this season in particular, he's been like practically limited to headed goals, in a lot of aspects. This goal, how do you feel, I guess, like with Aron like scoring a goal like this?
I love it for him because it takes a lot of technical know-how to score this kind of a goal. And like you said, he's been kind of like a header merchant this season, which is great. But it's nice to see him score a nice finish like this. I hope it gives him confidence, because as we know, this is a player that we have seen the shoulders drop and the head drop in the past, and the scoring dry up. And we need him for the stretch. And so I hope that this finish will give him some confidence despite the result. And big ups to Lucho too. For a striker that is happy to see others score and facilitate play, that's always nice. I mean, we've got our own like Karim Benzema, if you will, someone who's really willing to do it all for the team and bag him as well. So high praise, I know, but I really rate Lucho that highly.
Yeah, and Lucho does play a massive part in this goal as well. Just the initial ball is actually, I think it's Eder who shields the ball for Velasquez to be able to collect it, and he just chips one over into space for Lucho to run in on, who it looks like Lucho might miss control initially, or like take a little bit of a heavy touch on his second touch. But Gomez the whole time is making this run right down the center of the field, and he's not really being marked. But Bold is relying on the offside trap to like keep him in an offside position. And Aron just does this, like, he just does a very subtle move, but something that makes all the difference in terms of like the scoring of this goal, in that he just slows his run as Lucho is attracting, like the defender on, defending Lucho's run is has his back to Aron, doesn't see him, just take that couple of paces down, a couple of steps. He just kind of slows down a little bit, gets back on side. Lucho sees it immediately, chips the ball through, and Gomez is onto it. And with an on-rushing keeper like that, and of the quality of Panico, as we discussed, like with him coming out like that, chipping the ball over the on-rushing keeper when you've got a lot of space can be, okay, like it was the obvious choice. The keeper had gone to ground, all those things. In this case, Gomez basically has a quarter step to be able to get that skill right, because Panico is onto him. And he gets it exactly right. Not an easy skill, not easy to keep on target. And so it's just a quality goal. And I love a good chip finish for sure.
Yes.
But this for Gomez, I think just having a goal that was born out of his ability to, one, recognize the situation, but also two, like to do something instinctual and like be able to trust himself. I think that's big, because as we've said, like he is very much a confidence player. And when he missed that header last week against Colorado Springs and what could have been the winner, I worried that it might send him down a path of scorelessness, and he's bounced right back with a goal, which is great to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really didn't even think to mention the slowing of the run, because Lucho's he can just do it all, right? I mean, there's a brashness to his game sometimes when he's trying to like whip volleys 40 yards from goal in, and they are not far. And then there's that subtlety, where he's just slowing his run a little bit to put the back line kind of like off kilter and then, contribute for this goal. So he can just do it all. And credit to Jag as well.
So unfortunately, it looked at the time, 82 minutes or 83rd minute, I guess, you're thinking like game over. Unfortunately, as we know, the Guadarrama goal with the last kick of the game keeps Locomotive from claiming silverware, which, as we said at the top of the show, it was Copa Tejas, and it was a chance for Locomotive to clinch Copa Tejas. And I gotta confess something. Like
you have the floor.
How do I say this? Like I feel like Copa Tejas, when it comes to USL now, the USL version, or whatever they call it, what do they call it? D2 Division 2 of the Copa Tejas. I felt that. Like I felt that Division 2 last night, because we had a situation where a team could have clinched the Copa, and there wasn't really anything around the game, like in the buildup to what would potentially be like the claiming of that trophy from the like organization itself. Like from Copa Tejas, there wasn't really a whole lot of hype around it. There was like retweets,
a lot of retweets
of the club accounts, and like retweets of the striker, which like that's fine, but like this is the trophy that started this whole competition, and I just feel like we got told at the beginning of the season that we weren't going to be second-class citizens, and yet like here we are.
And yet our equal protection rights are being violated. Yeah. No, yeah, it's. I have most largely ignored Copa Tejas until now, until I know that we are on the verge of winning it, and I'm fully like happy to admit that because of this new division system. I was really hoping that we could have something that's our own, and I don't know how that decision was made, and I don't care really because it is what it is now. But it's a little bit disappointing, and it does feel a little like meh. Like, as supporter trophies go, I mean, it's it's something the fans care about, but when you like kind of cheapen it, even worse. It's even worse. I don't know. It's kind of complicated, but I think I do know what you mean and how you feel about it. It's like, hey, would have been nice to like have a little bit more hype from the competition itself.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't that much energy around it. And I don't know if it has to do with the fact that like Locomotive are probably going to have like 4 or 5 more, chances to clinch the trophy because we've been dominant. But I don't know. Like with the amount of like content and stuff like that that's come out from Copa Tejas around the MLS games, like I can't scroll my timeline without being bombarded. Like if God forbid Austin FC is playing any other Texas team, like that's all I fucking see from Copa Tejas. But like this wasn't theirs to start. Like this was supposed to be about the supporters of the USL Championship Texas sides, and I feel like they've like overstretched. Where like they were like, we're gonna do both, but if the engagement and interactions and I don't know how they're measuring success for Copa Tejas. Like I don't know how the organization like rates itself. But if that's where it's at, then I mean, ultimately your energy is going to go there. But like, why did we do it this season? Like, why we've only done it once? Like, why do it now?
And we had one interrupted by COVID-19, and I'm just now realizing that they actually have a plaque on the side of Copa Tejas that says COVID-19, which I hate. But
no, they do not.
Yes, they do. Oh look at the video of the. Yeah, they do. And I hate that. Like, don't give legitimacy to this virus.
Copa-19.
It says COVID-19 on the side.
COVID-19
like on the little,
won the 2020. Oh my God. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Oh, that's brutal. I'm like, and here's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to look a gift horse in the mouth. Like, this is a trophy, and like the reasoning behind it was cool. And it was to bring the supporters of the 4 USL Championship Texas sides together. And I think it did that in its opening season. Like it created a really cool atmosphere around like games that were interstate, and it added like this edge to the games. And it's really kind of jarring because like the USL broadcast, it has Copa Tejas at the top. The USL broadcast talked about Copa Tejas a bunch during the game. They talked about like, this is what Copa Tejas brings when Guadarrama scores the equalizer at the end of like the drama and all this stuff. But I'm like, I don't really feel any of that, only because I feel like the people who organize it like care. Like USL almost cares more than like the organizers do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's just weird. And I know that I'm not saying like there's very good people involved with Copa Tejas, and they are like a bunch of soccer fans like doing their best to organize something cool for Texas soccer fans. I just can't help but feel like we're a little bit marginalized in the sense that like we're far away, and if like someone else maybe like closer to the center of the state were like gonna win it, then maybe there would be more about the games. I don't know. Like, maybe there would be more made of it. Like, I don't want to play the whole like, oh, El Paso, like, woe is me, because like obviously El Paso's mentality more often than not is just like El Paso versus everybody. But I just can't help but feel like there's like some disconnect, like some level of disconnection with Copa Tejas this year. And maybe it was just the COVID interrupted year and whatever, but I can't help, between the D1 stuff and then us being like geographically far, I think it's just taken the shine off Copa Tejas a little bit.
It has. But I will say there's a chance for some of that shine to be restored if and when we win it at home. And I hope that the Copa Tejas is in the building, because imagine the trophy lift in front of Section 105.
Oh, man.
Fucking scenes.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That'll be very special, and I do hope that comes to pass. And all will be forgiven.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All is forgiven when we win the trophy. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back and we'll answer your listener questions, and then it's looking ahead to Real Monarchs. What are you going to do?
Right.
I don't know. I just
better edit this one carefully.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're good. I've navigated some pretty choppy waters in the past, and we've come out more or less clean. So
yeah. No, you always do a good job.
Welcome back to Seriously Loco. Mikka, we got a couple of listener questions in tonight, and a little bit along the same lines. I think we can get a sense that the fans are feeling a little uneasy. Maybe like they're like we're losing a little bit of steam. Train pun. Mandatory train pun. So the first question came from at Yancey1389 on Twitter, and he asked, what tool or tools need to be added or sharpened before the playoffs? And the added context, and this is Phil just adding, is that there is it is kind of like transfer deadline day, if you will. Like, there's a roster freeze approaching for USL.
That's right. Yes. What tools need to be added? I mean, ideally, I think we just need a warm body in defense, because the defensive lineup, that backline changes week to week, it seems, where we once had a settled back four, more or less. Now that Yuma's injured, it would be nice to add a body there. And to be fair, if anyone can find a suitable replacement who doesn't take long to adapt, it is Mark Lowry, because we've seen him do this in the past, where he's brought in defenders that fit in pretty quickly. So if we were to add someone, certainly in that area of the pitch would be nice. I think as for which tools need to be sharpened before the playoffs, I don't know that we necessarily need to. I don't think anyone is necessarily playing poorly, like to where they're like drop them and never see them again. I think overall the team is performing fine, but I think it's more about just like getting folks back to full fitness and keeping people healthy, because the squad is not that big. So, yeah.
Well, along those lines, with speaking about the warm body in defense, we also got a question from Jay Konecki, which we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast in terms of being an option. But Jake asked, what are the rules on recalling loan players, and what are the chances that we recall Niall Logue from Memphis 901?
I don't know what the rules are on recalling loan players. I think it might just be up to each individual contract. Do you have any insight on that, Baki?
So I think you're right, in that it seems like, based on my independent research that I conducted prior to this pod, which was scanning articles for instances of players being recalled from loans by championship sides, there aren't many examples. Most of the examples of teams recalling players from loan are MLS sides recalling players from USL sides.
Right.
But I think it all is about, like, if there is like a recall clause is something that is included in loans, like, often just in a global sense. Like, you'll often see teams build those recall clauses in, especially if there's a chance, like if that player is a fringe player versus maybe a young player that you've sent out to go get experience somewhere else. Oftentimes there will be a recall clause built in just in case, like in case of emergency break glass. Like that's the sort of arrangement. I have to feel, and maybe this could be a little bit of my own thought. Like, I have to feel that if we were going to recall Niall, I feel like we would have done it.
Right.
That's my only thing. Even if we have a recall clause in there, because I think the roster freeze is like tonight or tomorrow.
Yes, I think
because Indy just signed somebody and said like at the deadline, basically, or like you know, as they approach the deadline. So I don't know if a recalled loan player would even be like, if we would even be eligible if we don't get him back prior to the freeze. Like, could we even recall him, or even if we recalled him, could we play him in a game? I'm not really sure. So, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. I think everybody who listens to this podcast consistently would know that me and Mikka feel pretty strongly about the fact that we think Niall could contribute. But that's based off of, you know, small snippets of evidence from Memphis games that, you know, are in a different conference division system, etc. So,
true.
So yeah, we're not really sure like what the thoughts around Niall are at the organization. It seemed like this was a chance for consistent playing time, and it did seem like an opportunity to maybe get a solid option at center back into the squad. But yeah, as far as the rules, like the roster freeze, I think has me a little bit confused, because like, does that mean no more like loan bombs from MLS teams and all that sort of thing as well? So who knows?
Well, and that kind of seems like it's the aim, right? Is so that other teams are not like unjustly enriched right before the playoffs or during the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, it's a good couple of questions, and just very, I think, indicative of, obviously, I think fans are feeling that they know that it's been going fine, but it's currently not going quite as well as it was. And so that's the tone of the questions. We're definitely in the, like, do we need to worry?
Right.
And I think the short answer is no. Integrated into the team, but I don't think there's going to be any big changes at the deadline. I think Mark probably played his hand with the Velasquez signing, to be quite honest.
That's very true. Yeah, I think that was like our marquee addition.
Yeah. So Mikka, Real Monarchs, as we look ahead to this midweek game, the first of many Wednesday night games at the SWAP through the end of the season. This team returning home after a couple of tough road draws. Do you think this is the refreshment that the squad needs to return home, or does it amp the pressure up even a little more with this, you know, now famous unbeaten streak on the line?
No, I think it's just what the doctor ordered. Something to be said about sleeping in your own bed after some time away, right? I think that goes for the players as well. And I'm sure that even with it being a weeknight, since our last Saturday game has now passed at home, I still think that it's certainly eighth notch, and a lot of the fans will still show out. I certainly will try to be there, and I think the team and the fans are looking forward to it because we're comfortable at home, and it's against a Real Monarchs side that are dreadful, 16 losses in 24 games, negative 21 goal differential, and comfortably bottom of the Mountain Division with 16 points, and they have not won since August 4th. 1-0 win against San Diego Loyal, so 6-game losing streak, and I think it is just the antidote that we're looking for. Now, we do have to come out and be serious. I don't think we should, treat this team like a joke or anything. This team has given us big issues in the past, so I don't think it's anything we can't handle. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, as you mentioned about Monarchs' run, six losses in a row. Locomotive looking to make it 7, and Monarchs have lost actually 8 of their last 10, and
Rough.
they've only got 1 goal in their last 4 matches, and New Mexico United were the team to concede that goal. So
You had to get that dig in there, didn't you?
1 per episode. So with that being said, like with Monarchs on the run that they on this skid that they've been on, what system? We talked a lot about obviously the diamond, and we talked about kind of going back to basics and all this stuff against a team that is in this like ugly of a vein of form that Monarchs are in. Do you think that Mark switches it up, or do you think Mark is gonna like persist with this 4-4-2?
I don't know. The 4-4-2 flat seems like a road thing recently, so I will go out on a limb and say we'll revert to the diamond. And honestly, I'm trying to like manifest it by speaking it out loud to you all here. I would really like to see Richie in his 6th position, but flanked by Nick, and actually, I would love to see Chapa in this one. I think his extra work rate in and around that area would be really helpful, and it allows Nick to get forward and be more influential and help Richie. So, and then, maybe 7 to 10, and then Lucho and Aaron kind of as the natural strike partnership. But that's my wishful thinking. We'll see who's available for the, the back line, of course. But yeah, I'm hoping we go back to the diamond.
Yeah, it's an interesting one too to think of, because from this point on, every roster decision that's being made in terms of who's playing and the amount of minutes that they're playing for is being made with at least the next match in mind, but probably more than that, because we're talking about a Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Wednesday, or is that a Thursday? Maybe a Thursday. No, yeah. Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday. Like that continues for weeks, literal weeks. We're playing 3 games a week every single week for the rest of the season. And so
absolutely brutal.
So it's going to be fascinating to see who actually does get game time, because I think, as weird as it sounds off the back of this 2-2 and all this, I think we could see like a really, and this is in no means like disrespectful to Monarchs, but I think we could see like a pretty heavily rotated side on next Wednesday, because with the thought of, hey, like I need all of these guys to play. Like I'm really thinking about Colorado Springs that following Saturday, because away at Weidman, it's like obviously it's a big game in terms of Locomotive maintaining like the lead at the top. But at the same time, Monarchs, like, you can't afford to really slip up against them because then the rivals are gaining ground as well in a game that you should win. So it's going to be a really interesting, like, mind game that's played and just rotating smartly, but not so much that you disrupt the flow of the team, but not too little that people get hurt. And I think Mark and the staff have like an absolutely crazy challenge ahead of them in terms of navigating this correctly. But I think there's a couple of areas that Mark might take a chance on Wednesday in terms of just maintaining some fitness for some key pieces. I think, obviously center back, we may just be forced into playing, and which means Eder is probably forced into playing left back if Foxy's pressed into service in the center. I think we could see Ricky Zacharias. Yep. We could see him back there for Maka. And I think Chapa is a good shout. I think he's been rested more, or he's been like kind of out of the team a little bit. So I think this would be a good game to bring him back for, if, as you said, like Nick and Richie are next to him. I doubt Mark goes like full bore in the midfield in terms of like, I doubt you see Brahim or, Brahim out there like in that position.
At least to start.
Yeah, I think maybe he saves him again, especially with the injury. He's kind of been in and like on and off this season. And then up front, I do think Gomez stands a chance of starting this one. I think
give Leandro some minutes. Maybe we give him the start.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because if he does start, we've only seen him start like once or twice. And I do think the leash is pretty short when Leandro is like, in terms of he'll play the first half or so. But yeah, he's not going. I think he's played like 90 minutes for us or something like that, and it like totally caught us out. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting matchup because I almost think that Mark is going into this stretch with the roster for probably the next, like the upcoming game and probably the next two games already sketched out.
I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah, because not only does he and the staff have to manage the fixture congestion, but they also have to manage like each of these players' workloads.
Yeah.
And they're all different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like science that goes into that. And goodness. Yeah. Tough.
And I hope they've trained well, like, or at least in this week, I hope they get a lot of training in, because they're basically not going to train like in a meaningful way the remainder of the season, because they're going to just be doing recovery and playing games. Like, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, for sure.
So we talked about some of the changes. I mean, Monarchs, we know that we know they're threats. Weehan, the other Weehan brother, was the goal scorer against New Mexico. We know about Briggs, big old boy up top.
Milan Ilaski, of course.
Yeah.
You have another brother, like USL brother pair, no?
Yeah, siblings FC. Ilaski, who has two brothers who play professionally, because Brian Ilaski and there's a third brother who also plays, another Ilaski brother. But yeah,
I must know. Let me look it up.
I would say, looking at the lineup of
Eric
Monarchs,
Ilaski.
Eric
plays for Lights.
Man. that family is down bad. They got one brother playing for Vegas and one for Monarchs.
No way, you just totally like the whole family is down horrendous. Just like a trident of like awful football. That's hilarious.
No, I mean they're obviously all professional footballers, so like credit to them.
We're us two podcasters. They're down bad.
Down bad, yeah, exactly. That's
man, we're kidding. Obviously,
that's the dilemma. So, but it's interesting looking at Monarchs lineup against New Mexico because it doesn't really resemble like any of the lineups that we've actually played, like that they've used against us this season. Like, there's only a couple of familiar names in there. Like Deuce-Nup in goal he's been ever present basically for them. James Moberg has been a fixture for Real Monarchs for a number of years. Orozco's the same story. Bonse's in there. Weehan is in there. But the rest of the side is like pretty changed, like in terms of the people involved. And I don't know if Briggs maybe is up with RSL or if he's hurt or what the deal is. But the bottom line is that like it just looks like there's not a lot of familiar names in there aside from Shithouse 11 Hall of Famer Bonse.
Yeah, Bonse's been sent off this season too, so maybe we can bait him into a situation. It looks like they're playing a lot of like kids in the back, which we could potentially feast on if the ball breaks our way. But they are not only are they down bad in the standings, but just like in terms of keeping the ball. I mean, goodness, the highest pass success in that team was their striker with 71%, and that's like a horrendous day for a Locomotive player.
Yeah,
Bonse actually had 73%, excuse me, but that's still like sub 80 is like yikes.
Yeah, that's,
so
well,
definitely take advantage of them.
All that being said, Mikka, obviously we're pretty bullish about Locomotive's chances, but we got to put our money where our mouth is, and we've got our pick 'em each week. We'll have to post an update on Twitter because I don't have the standings in front of me. I was a Sonny Guadarrama equalizer away from max points last night with the 2-1 win and a Gomez goal, and I was robbed. So it was a double. Maybe that's why I feel like shit today too. Like it's not just that we drew and a draw that feels like a loss, but I lost 4 valuable points in the standings. I mean, I still get the 1 point for the Gomez prediction, but we didn't win, so that's a point loss. And then the 2 points I would have gotten for the correct score.
Yep. At the death. So, with that being said, Mikka, for this game against Real Monarchs, who you got to win, and who's grabbing a goal? Yeah, I'm backing the boys in blue for this one. I think we'll bounce back with hopefully a comprehensive win. I'm gonna go 2-0. I think at home we're gonna control proceedings a lot easier than we have done on our road exploits, and hopefully keep that clean sheet for whoever is in goal. I wonder if we rotate Logan out just to give him a little bit of rest. It'll be interesting to see what we do with that, but Nick Ross, if he plays, to score a goal.
2-0 Nick Ross. That's
2-0 Nick Ross.
That's the vibe. I think Nick, if we're in the diamond, he certainly stands a chance of grabbing a goal for himself. He scored He also has like one of our best goals of this season with that the left-footed rip. Where was that? What game was that? Was that OC? OC, right?
I think it might have been. But that was such a good goal. It was kind of like not from kind of far out.
Yeah. Yeah, like just outside the area. I'm gonna get a little spicy with this one, and I'm recalling a specific game that's communicating with me right now, and it's later in the season against an MLS2 side at home. I'm thinking 4-0.
Wow.
Sebastian Velasquez, the one of the goal scorers, and the game that is speaking to me and calling out to me was first season Portland Timbers 2 at the Swap. Seb scored a really nice opening goal where he actually dribbled from the corner and then cut in onto his left and scored a really nice like low drive.
Yep, I remember that goal. That was beautiful.
And it launched I think Locomotive's biggest win. I think that game ended 4-1. I think we actually did concede, but I'm saying we improve on it 4-0. And I think it all comes down to one, I think in this week, hopefully a good response to what certainly was a disappointment like for the boys. So hopefully they bounce back and and then I mean the difference, the gulf in quality. I hope they're able to exert themselves. So I'm going for a big win, and hopefully they bully Monarchs a little bit. To be honest,
absolutely, I like that.
But yeah, that game was just, it was reaching out through time and space, and telling me to.
That was a nice goal, though.
Feel the vibe. Yeah, that was a really good goal.
Cool, I like it.
R.I.P. Portland Timbers too. It's fun while it lasted.
we got some pretty good games against them. Omar blowing the kisses game. Remember that? Away. Yeah.
Yep.
That's Locomotive heritage.
I think Omar scored his first goal for the club against Portland Timbers too, I think. Away.
I think that's right. I
think if I'm remembering correctly. What a time. It's crazy that feels old because it was literally 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Long way.
Yeah. Well, Mikka, I think that about covers it. Well, hopefully everyone has enjoyed the episode up to this point. Hopefully too, you'll be able to make it to Southwest University Park to see Locomotive take on Real Monarchs next Wednesday. Promises to be a great occasion. Is it Noche de Locos? Is that occurring?
I think yes. I think they're giving out like bandanas or something. I don't know if it's the next game. I don't know.
Sugar Skull?
I'll be there.
Yeah. Or is it against San Antonio? Either way. Yeah, it is the Noche de Locos bandana night next Wednesday, September 29th. So yeah, hopefully it's a game
6.
that matches the Noche de Locos. Although hopefully not the first Noche de Locos, because that was we needed a late equalizer against Tulsa Roughnecks to salvage a point. So hopefully it's not like that. But yeah, as I said, hopefully you're able to make it out to the game. Certainly, Seriously Loco will be represented. Yeah, I'm hoping for a big bounce back win for Locomotive. As I said at the top of the episode, like if you've enjoyed up until this, go ahead and give us a like or a follow or a subscription on whichever podcast platform you prefer. And give us a follow on Twitter at Seriously Loco, and keep an eye out for all the Locomotive news, banter, and whatever else. And until next time, everyone, stay loco.